Well, it's going to be a quick meeting tonight, so I'm going to go ahead and call the Wednesday, October 11th, 2023 Planning Board meeting to order. Before we begin, I'll go around the room and have everybody introduce themselves, starting my right.
Robert Davies, alternate.
Teresa Bascom.
John Moran.
Edward Veal.
Susan Mooney.
Charlene Anderson.
It's probably going to be a very quick night. We had one case on our agenda that was a continuation. They left a message for the land use clerk requesting that this be continued. They did not specify a date and time certain. We reached out to them, and I don't believe we got a response before the meeting, so, let me get into that. So case 23-005 SIT Nottingham Business Park, 145 Old Turnpike Road. Again, this is a continued case. It's an application from GM2 Associates, Inc., on behalf of Nottingham Business Park LLC to complete construction of a 176,000 square foot building, paved access drives and parking areas, stormwater management systems, and an existing on-site well for domestic water supply and fire suppression, and an on-site septic system. So like I said, the applicant's rep reached out requesting a continuation. I believe we originally heard this case in April, was when we first saw it. So they did not request a date and time certain. It's up to the board to act on the continuation request and have any further discussion. There's nobody here tonight for the applicant or for public, so it's at the board level.
Did Ian want to recuse himself?
Yeah, I'll stay here, but I'll be recused for this case.
Yeah, Mr. McKinnon is recused from the from this application as an abutter.
You haven't sat me
I
yet.
was just gonna
And
say.
I apologize. Point of order. And Mr. Davies will be seated in voting for the vacant seat tonight.
Or McKinnon?
Well, he'll be
We do
back,
have a
so.
vacancy.
Oh, got it.
So
Full voting privileges and participating in voting.
I have a question. Do we have only one meeting in November? Because the 22nd is the day before Thanksgiving.
Usually. It's up to the board, but.
So
we only have
I
one
suggest that we continue to our next meeting then,
scheduled, October 25th.
October 25th.
Well, how many continuations have they had? So they came to us in April, right? And then
They were here in May as well.
they were here in May, and then since then, they've continued twice before or three times before?
So we're on the agenda.
Excuse me.
They were on the July 12th agenda,
I have March
so I still have those.
site plan review. Yeah,
So I couldn't tell you the exact number of continuances. It's been multiple.
Yeah. I mean, I think, so they haven't submitted us updated plans from the very first one, which was when the application was accepted, although the plans and the information supporting those was really outdated, and didn't make sense. So I'm just wondering if it seems to me that they're not prepared.
So we sent those for the regional impact too, didn't we?
We did, yeah. So we got that back in July. So the application was originally from, that's a different,
Because they came to us for design review, what, last year, I think it was? Or conceptual, not a design review.
May 10th. May 10th was, I believe, the first public hearing for it. And then we had the regional impact
Was in June.
in June, yeah. And that was, I think, responded to June 7th, was the letter from Sharper and Planning Commission. As part of that. So when we look at continuances, I guess my thought is we generally tend to be pretty lenient and try to be very fair with applicants, but we also have to balance that against the fairness of abutters, even the fairness of the board and the town, in that a butter notification only goes out once at the very beginning. So when cases get continued over a course of 5, 6, 7 plus months, and there's nothing in between, or there's very little action in between, I think it can get lost for the abutters, so that they can potentially, lose sight or lose focus on a case, or keeping track of when there's a hearing, when there's not, or if they show up, and then it just gets continued that night without anything being heard. It can be a little, not disheartening isn't the right word, but two in a butter. So I think we need to balance everything out, but also against the scope of a project and the scale of it and what's being proposed, to try to understand, why one case might take longer than another. There's no direction there for me. Those are kind of like what I use as a balancing when we look at continuances and how far out do we go, especially if we haven't had any new materials.
Can we continue this to our next meeting and tell them that that's the last continuation unless they come in with some specific reason for continuing it?
Yeah, I don't know if it's the last, but I think we can try to word strongly that the board is expecting some form of update to understand, what's happening with the application. And if they're not prepared to move forward, that, they may want to withdraw the application until a certain date and time that they're ready. Or they can just provide us an update as to explaining, why the continuance is, needed to a specific date.
Well, this is familiar because we just continued one until December, just our last meeting. So, with the conditions that we hope that they're gonna come with something, because that was part of our discussion at last meeting.
Exactly.
So we were in the same boat that we were in last meeting.
Yeah, they seem to have not been very communicative through the process to exist, so that's,
So I'm fine with drafting, whatever we date at the will of the board. I've got a letter due to the applicant from the last meeting that they specifically at least requested a specific date in December. But trying to send a letter out to them on behalf of the board, with the same kind of verbiage and letting them know that these are supposed to be a fixed time period for cases, it's mutually agreeable time when continuations can occur. But neither side has to agree to the continuances either. Our side doesn't have to.
Also our time.
And the abutters.
Right. If somebody was gonna be here, but yeah, they could've came and said,
Yeah.
oh, look, and to cancel on the last minute. If you would've said, hey, last week, we knew. But again, it's, that's not being very fair or respectful. Maybe it's a better word.
Considerate.
There you go, there's another good word to throw in there, sure.
I think that's how it comes off, and maybe there's a lot of stuff in the works that we're not aware of, but getting an update on that would be helpful, to give us, to gauge kind of appropriateness of the continuance or other plans.
Well, I think for me, that is the biggest thing that I think maybe this is a good time to talk about it, is with all of the cases, when they're being continued, I don't think it's showing respect at all to the board members for people to wait until the last minute to submit anything for us for review. All of us have other things to do. Some of you work, even those of us that are retired are constantly busy. And to submit paperwork that we need to be reviewing on the Friday before our Wednesday meeting, just to me is very disrespectful. And then to have people not bring anything for updates and just not even reach out saying, I don't have anything, cancel my appearance before the next meeting or something, is disrespectful as well, and to the public. And I'm just frustrated with the lack of respect that's shown or consideration to all of us and to the community.
And again, we could have another meeting, another agenda item coming up, and now we're stuck with a 10 o'clock at night getting out meeting because
Yeah.
things are compiling and we gotta get things moving, and that's not fair to us either, so.
No, agreed.
Yeah. So, again, I think that goes, all those concerns go back to kind of like the fact that this board is very lenient, is the only word I could think of, in that, if an applicant requests continuances, we generally approve them, with the, I think, assumption there that something's come up, something's being worked on. I know there's a lot of engineering that goes on to any of these plans, but in the end, it comes back to the board's decision as to, do we allow a continuance? Or if we get new material submitted and it doesn't meet our 7-day, timeframe that we usually request, do we act on those, or should we say, we just received these, we don't have enough time? We're not gonna talk about that tonight, we'll have to continue. And that's totally fair in some cases, you know, depending on the scope of what the material is, but,
So they did not ask for a date and time. So what are our options here? How many options do we have as a board?
so the ones I can think of immediately is we can act upon what's been submitted so far. We can act upon the application. We can grant a continuance and we set a date and time certain and let them know about what the date and time is. Those are two things I could think of. I'm sure I'm missing some other
So
options.
why don't we put the date out front and say, listen, if you're not here and you have nothing in front of us, we ask that you close your case. And just put that in writing to them so that they know that if they don't come up and they keep asking continuance, that we're gonna ask them to close their case.
Yeah.
So that we can move on and.
Well, that's
Yeah.
that's what I think we ought to
Well,
do.
here's the thing, when were they last here? They were here 3 weeks ago to introduce the new guy, because the other guy was retiring.
That's longer than 3 weeks ago.
Was it longer than that?
I think that was in,
September
I think that,
27th.
yeah, I was gonna say.
It was
that
August?
No, that was continued.
No, I think it was August, because I know I was not in town.
Is that this case?
That was this case, and here he had an opportunity to give us an update on when to expect stuff, knowing that this date was coming. I just, you know, well, I'll just,
July
don't-
26th is the last date I see.
okay, July, so I don't know why we would continue this case. If they had said, we want to continue this case because we're working on this, this, and this, and this, but we didn't get any of that communication from them at all. And they had the opportunity when they were here, introducing the new guy, because the other guy was retiring. The whole lack of communication from them is just, it doesn't mean that they can't come back. It just means we're not gonna continue this case ad nauseum, right?
It's two cases this year that that's happening with, which is, I think, unusual, where we're getting,
Most people want to get their projects done.
usually, but not, this
I'll
doesn't
say
seem.
it.
Usually continuing cases are because they need to go back and do some re-engineering and, you know, or they need to go and do a traffic analysis and stuff, like, that's why we're mostly
Right.
continuing cases
And
is,
that's the thing, when there's no updates, it's just, we're just left in the dark and then
Yeah.
it's for speculation and everything else, so, which doesn't feel right as a, you know, a planning board, so, yeah. If we don't have material, we can't make guided decisions, if we're not getting updates, you know, again, I understand with, especially a commercial project, you know, it could be a lot of moving pieces, but that's the case with any of our, you know, subdivisions and everything as well, so, I think,
So I'd like to see what, if we just make a motion to continue to the next date with the letter going out saying, you know, please have updates and generalized information for us. If none is received, we graciously ask you to
withdraw.
withdraw your thing, or we're gonna vote on it that night and make it withdraw, I mean.
Right.
Well, or we
That
could-
sounds
we can
reasonable.
Deny it, like, that was,
Right,
we
that-
could
I mean,
look
that's
at it
it.
right now and deny it and just,
I'd probably push us to the November date, just because I know we have, the Smoke Street subdivision continuance for the 25th.
Yeah, we're asking for an update. We're not asking them to
understand.
come here, update us, tell us this, give us a 20-minute conversation of what's going on, or what their plans are, what they're trying to do. I mean, that would be more than sufficient for me. Sure. But we don't know nothing. And we haven't heard
Is there
it.
anything else on the 25th? No, I don't think we've
Not
seen
that I'm
any.
aware, not that I'm aware of. I don't think we have anything else continued to that night.
As a member of the public, in my experience in this too, we oftentimes, the board, from what I've observed, will take requests for continuances and just act upon them amongst themselves. It is acceptable, and I've had to do it before, where I needed a continuance for my own project, but I still need to go to the meeting. Because that's still a vote that the board has, as I've seen here, that's still a vote the board needs to make, and oftentimes, it might be 5 minutes, but that's where the questions are asked, what is the reasoning for it?
Yep.
Unless it's a reason where somebody physically is asking for continuance because they cannot make it to the meeting, but, I've done that a number of times, so I just said, here's why, sorry.
Yeah, I think that's a good input, you know, general input for the board, beyond this case, is having either Alana or Blair, you know, if they just request a date, you know, say, we would like to be continued, to give us some justification for it. for every applicant. That way, it's, we're not in the dark of saying, like, someone's requested a continuance to 3 months from now, 2 months from now, 4 months from now, you know, but why, you know? Well, because our board can switch over and during the course of some of these cases, where they continue on, long enough, or just the freshness of what was reviewed is lost, you know, from meeting to meeting, especially when the timeline continues.
The process of asking for a continuance does not include that person. It doesn't like essentially excuse their presence. It's just, I think that's the general practice that I've seen is people kind of request it via email and that's about it.
It could be
Did you
just,
not make a motion, or are you?
I proposed a motion.
Proposed.
it could be a form letter. It doesn't have to be addressed to this person, that person, as we see fit. It just could be a form letter that says, your project has languished for several months now, and we've not received any updates. If we do not receive information in a timely fashion, then we will dismiss your case.
Within,
That it?
A
That's
date.
it.
Yeah, we may,
You just leave blanks until the dates.
right?
we may just, we may.
So are we gonna ask?
To whom it may
Alana
concern.
to do that? To make up this form letter with the verbiage, or?
Yeah, I'll probably draft it. I'll draft it, because I have to get one out anyway, so, yeah,
Yeah.
had it.
Just keep it simple, I think.
Yep.
So, Mr. Chairman, I move that we continue case 23-005 SIT until November, whatever the date is for that.
October 25th.
Oh, okay, I thought you said you wanted it
I
in
did, but
November.
then Mr. Morris-
Okay, so October 25th at 7 PM with the notice of, this is your deadline being sent along with it to the applicant.
I'll
Pardon me?
second.
Post haste.
Post
So there's a
haste.
motion by Mrs. Bascom, a second by Ms. Mooney, to continue case 23-005 SIT to October 25th, 2023 at 7 PM, with a notation that an update is needed, or this may be the last continuance.
It will be,
That letter needs to go out
exactly.
ASAP, just to give them time. I mean, again,
Correct.
and the letter should just state, again, I'm just throwing out stuff, but that we were looking for something.
Substance.
Yeah, let us know. like-
Consideration
Exactly,
to the reasoning,
exactly. There you go.
the continuation.
And I'm sure you'll do fine. We got a motion going.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries, now I gotta count, 1, 2, 3, 5, 1, 0. And Mr. McKinnon is, rejoined us, as a participating and voting member of the board.
7:16.
What's that, at 7:16? 7:16 PM, thank you. Other,
This meeting's moving quick.
nothing else for me tonight. Actually, it says something about the budget, the town departments for the select board, either October 16th or October 30th. I saw Ellen emailed out, I think yesterday.
I think it's the 30th. I don't think that's on this Monday one coming up.
16th or 30th?
I know
That's a
I know
Tuesday.
we're gonna be talking about it on Monday, getting things
Tuesdays.
organized. Well, we only have meetings on Monday.
Okay. So maybe the dates are wrong. I'll check it with Ellen, but I'll see if, and I'll coordinate, I'll coordinate and see if, one of us can.
Yeah, 'cause I think the stuff we need to propose to the budget committee is like the first or second week, whatever, of November is where we have to have our budget, to them to start going over all the details.
Public comment, it's the time of night anybody can come in and ask us questions, as long as it's not about a specific project or property or application. If you have questions about the planning board process, come see us. Nobody's here, so we'll move on. One set of minutes, I propose that we table those. We just got them yesterday, unless anybody wants to go and delve into them.
I haven't had a chance to look at them.
We'll table the minutes of September 27th to the next meeting. Select board, staff board member updates. Mr. Davies.
No.
Mrs. Bascom?
I attended the SRPC training last week. It was pretty informative. I've got a nice packet here that I still have yet to read all the way through. They did cover a lot of what they do. And I was really interested to find out that there's somebody on their group who can help with, remember when we had the applicant come in and they were talking about the development on 156? There was a big concern from people about traffic. And they have a person there who can actually come out and help with that information, with looking at it and work with, I don't know if it's just us, I'm assuming it was, I have to talk to Blair for more about it, but to figure out how that would work with the 20 homes or whatever it was gonna be there. Above and beyond a regular traffic study, it sounded like, so I thought that was,
Yeah, so he works a lot on like the DOT project, he'll look down, advocate for like count projects, that kind of stuff within
right,
the county.
Right.
I don't think he does like technical review of like something submitted to us from a traffic engineer, but he essentially is Blair's counterpart if the board has questions about
But-
general traffic practice.
they mentioned something about some sort of a program that they have that can like overview and look at traffic patterns now and then include what an increase in traffic would look like in that area.
So they essentially do a build scenario, which is what a traffic impact study does, but we
I'll
would
take
be
your
able to,
word for
yeah. That's what it sounds like, because that's what you have to do for a traffic impact study, but what I think you're describing is essentially the board could, depending on how that process is, could potentially have a brief one done, so we would be able to fact check and make sure whatever's submitted to us, even though
Right.
it technically could be peer reviewed. You
Right,
could request to say, well, did they weigh, are they very different?
right. And then that was my thought, was that we would be able to see from a
Like a third party kind of.
yes, unbiased person looking at it and going, yeah, it would impact, or no, it really wouldn't have a significant impact. And then we had talked at one point about having a bike path or something on 152, because we talk about how there's a lot of bicycles and like experienced recently with vehicles going around us when it's a curve and you can't see traffic coming the other way. And I'm praying that they don't get hit and kill us in the process. This person also can look at the bike path and make it one of the projects, not make it, but submit it as a project that goes forward for the next,
Plan,
pardon?
10-year plan, or?
Right,
Sounds like what Dirk was trying to get done on the striping for 156.
Yeah.
so mentioning that to you guys, when you hear or see something, especially not just traffic related, but any of these other things, mention it to Charlene or I, so that when we're there, we can submit these things. We just were chatting as new people to the SRPC and finding out what they had going on.
Yeah, I think the first request was simply just to put signage up, to share the road, but, designated bike route on the road, so at least bring awareness. And then ideally, yeah, make it so there's a little bit more width or shoulder, so that it, you avoid some of that situation that you just mentioned.
Yeah, there's areas on 152 where you cannot move over because the tar is up here and then the dirt and the poison ivy is right next to you.
And the
You
white
can't-
lines on the edge.
It is, exactly. There's no way to move over, so the cars have no choice but to go around you. And many people are just too impatient to wait until they can see far enough ahead, so I'm surprised there hasn't been any serious accidents aside from that one death on 156. Just blows my mind.
Well, I know SRPC is aware of it, is obviously the intersection of 152 and Route 4, and there was just a 3-car accident there on Friday I drove by. Seems like that's becoming more common. The near misses that I see there every week is insane.
Yes.
That goes to back, like, when you look at planning, it's, you might be focused on this one area, like, so Epping might be focused on like their commercial corridor, but it extends so far beyond.
Right.
Into other towns. When you get enough development, you then affect all the arterial roads and everything else.
It's a purpose for regional impact, right?
Yeah.
Right.
But
Well,
people don't use it a lot.
Or if you do, it's one case, and it's the accumulation sometimes of.
Yeah.
Yeah, adds
Well,
up.
you've talked how many times about how people are using veg farm and stuff to avoid going 125 all the way. That's all for me. Anyway, I just wanted to pass that on.
Thank you for attending that too.
You're welcome.
Mr. Moran,
Select Board, we had two public hearings tonight. One was to authorize the unanticipated funds of $19,980 for a grant that we received for the body worn cameras for the police department. That has passed 4-0, so that was good. And the second public hearing we had was about the planning board fees and changing them to be more adequately represent other towns so that we're in line with them, because they needed to be upgraded, and that passed tonight with 4-0. Paving on Deerfield Road, final cut was done, Flutter Street was done. If anybody's curious, the paving that's going on Oak Bridge, the new development over there, that is not from the town, so your tax dollars are not being paid for that. The developer of that is doing the final coat on there, so the select board will be, or the town will be going for an article or whatever to get that voted in as a town road, because now they have the finishing pavement top on there for that development, so just in case people are curious, the town is not paying for that stretch of pavement that's going on there.
well, it only comes to the town for a vote to accept it as a public road if there's a petition.
Well, I'm sure it's gonna be,
Yeah.
so,
Do you guys look at those to make sure, have a review to make sure culverts and all of this stuff is adequate before you accept these roads, so that we don't end up with another road that has a problem with a culvert that is too small and,
Well, we usually have a bond, I don't know if there's,
Yeah,
there's
there's a
probably
bond
some
that
bond,
they-
that's
people
the
that
performance
they
bond
give it.
with the new roads that gets reduced over time,
and then
but.
CMA, where the engineering company is gonna obviously go over it, so. I don't think we've had any problem with any of the new roads that were just developments that have been put in. Ever recalled any history of any of the new development roads having issues?
all right, I'm just asking, because I know that culvert seems to be the biggest issue lately with town roads.
Oh, yeah, well, a lot of Old Town roads, Old Town, 300 years old, a lot of stuff.
I know CMA,
Culverts aren't 300 years
CMA,
old.
Well,
yeah,
right.
CMA has their milestones.
They're just old roads. So budget, the big thing is budget's coming up. We're gonna start really diving into that. We, this year, needed to increase pay for people that are working for the town to be more adequately in line with other towns, because, as you see in this economy, which, bad or good, however you wanna look at it, it's tough to find employees. The pay scale has to go up in order to find employees, and, people in town are demanding, higher services from us. When they say the road is not perfect, or they want it taken care of right away, if the recycling center's not working for them in the way that they want to, they want it that better way, or, this goes on. But these services cost money, so you have to pay the people you want to do them, so in order to keep the people we had to give more money.
We still have 4% tax.
And we still, that's where it's gonna come fun. So, and then we also, the last board meeting, we also put all the selectmen, we went back to an old tradition that we had, which I don't know how to say old, but, we all assigned ourselves, like liaisons to certain departments in town. So I'm the one for the rec department. And to try to be more proactive with those departments so that, we can get to know the people that are working for the town. We get to know what, and be more understanding of what they're doing. It's not, we're not sitting there to be a,
Doing performance reviews all the time.
we're not, that's not even, it's not, we're not, none of us are trying to be a big brother on any of this. We just wanna know, because there's so many activities like the rec department is, and I don't have kids, I have no idea of all the stuff, the money and what they're doing. So for me, it's gonna be a good, exactly, and there's so much that's going on, and the same with what's going on with the higher department, who's being able to run, it's just more for knowledge that we know what's going on. We're not there to critique anybody and say, it's more of just to be, for all of us to have a better understanding of everything that's going on in town, so that we're not as reliant on just, somebody telling us something, we like to have a little bit more background.
Yeah, it's good.
Hopefully that will benefit us in the future in keeping that going for that. But the big thing that's coming up is budget, where, see what happens.
Yeah, retaining people, I think, is key, especially crucial employees.
Well, the fact that if you
whatever,
lose
but
them, you can't get another one.
There's that, and then you have the down, then you lose a bunch of people because can only shift burden so much on a department, if any department, and,
Right, but you also, people
and
want,
hiring and attracting and
people
training
want the
and
best
everything, it
stuff,
costs a lot of money, and it takes up a lot of time.
you know?
So, yep, sounds like those are all good moves.
Well, I mean, it's, you know, it's, nothing gets changed quickly, it's baby steps as we keep moving on, but as long as we keep moving forward, that's the best we can say we can do for now. Yeah, that's pretty much it. We have a meeting on Monday, if you're bored.
One thing that came to mind, and actually, I've kind of heard this mentioned at other meetings in the past, is, and this might be more of a question for Blair, because it might be more legal related, is I'm curious if when we do get, this is generally speaking, because we do see multiple continuances on a lot of applications, is if there's a time threshold where you can actually then require additional abutter notifications. I mean, because I think it's fair to at least ask the question, or if the state doesn't prohibit it, that allows the town to potentially make a policy that if your application exceeds a certain period of time, can we require additional abutter
That's a-
notification? Because it has been an issue on past applications,
I
where it
think that'd
continues
be-
for 5-6 months.
Yeah, every 6 months they should have, I think it's,
Subdivision or site plan review regs.
Yeah, I just wanna make sure if we do it, it's not like legally, that there's not an RSA or something, so I.
Do you mind, would you mind emailing Blair?
Yeah, I can email
on that
Blair
one?
about that.
Okay.
And then the only other thing I was gonna mention is I wasn't able to attend the last meeting, but I did believe there was some discussion around the cistern, or is that, I
Yeah,
saw
I'm
you
gonna-
fire off an email that's,
I'm gonna bring up cisterns in a second.
okay, then that's it.
So, so a couple of quick things. So we do have another case for the 25th. It's there, we have a conditional approval for a case on Moores Road. And, they want to come back before us to talk about one of the conditions. Condition being, cistern type or potentially switching to sprinklers for the houses. So I believe that's a substantive change, so a butter re-notification is gonna go out for that. And we'll have that on the agenda for that night. It won't be to rehear the case, it's specific to a condition of approval. Separate from that, I had emailed the town administrator and the deputy fire chief, to see if, since we're in the warrant article season and updates, to see if they had any, if they would review and had any updates required or recommended for the, our fire protection appendix that's in our documents. That definitely came from a technical standpoint. This board didn't draft that language because it mentions type and size and everything else. So I believe it came from, the former, building inspector Paul Colby and then potentially the former chief Kochuk. So it's a little bit beyond our scope of review, so we could definitely send it out to a third party, CMA or whatever, but I'd like, since the authority in our town is the fire chief, to get their input first, before we do anything different, so. So that was outside of this case, or there was another case, on Route 4 that was requesting a concrete cistern over a poly, fiberglass because of the cost. I guess they're, I think, 3 times more expensive, 100 grand versus 300 grand kind of thing. So I would like to kind of understand what the town's reasoning is for one type specifically, if it's just experience, you know, whatever, because most of the time these become a town-owned piece of equipment, you know, long-term, so the town ends up being responsible for maintenance and replacement of them, and, you know, maybe that's a discussion that's had is, you know, does an HOA have to bear responsibility for it if it's going in as part of subdivision? You know, there might be pros and cons with that. So I'll reach back out to both those and just see, because obviously we'll have a case before us, so I'll need some input. And we'll have to look at how we drafted our notice of decision on those, because sometimes we'll say, you know, fire suppression or whatever, to be approved by the fire department or the fire chief. So that takes it out of our hands and saying, well, if they don't approve it, you can hold up a.
Well, a real
subdivision.
current example is that the Mitchell Road subdivision has been accounting for a concrete cistern. I believe that project is fully approved because they would have received all that approval, so. I know the previous fire chief was reviewing and approving concrete cisterns, so there's been a precedent set, so I just wanna make sure that, you know.
Yeah, but a new chief could have a whole nother idea and say, I like these better.
Right,
And it
I just
could be an
know if
opinion.
there was that precedent, I think I probably, with the subdivision I see with the cistern being concrete, we're gonna get the ask is, well, you've been approving the last 5 as concrete cisterns, even with the fiberglass requirements, so why now the switch back? To your point, like, it doesn't mean that they can't, a new chief can't switch back, but, it's a good time to also look at, is that the best requirement, I'd say.
Yeah, and you'd have to go back and see if that was a waiver, a variance or.
Yeah, it says, I
whatnot.
think if you read the system regulations, like the last note on it and requirement is the fire chief has the right to basically change and make, you know.
You can
delete,
also
add,
ask, you could
or
also ask
change
Dale for an
requirement.
opinion on it,
Yeah.
as our building inspector.
He has experience.
Yeah, he has experience and everything, to see what, you know, just so we can get a second opinion.
Yep.
Yeah, just trying to go to the
Next.
appropriate channel. So that's, so with that too, Blair pulled up, I think the town of Wakefield, he gave me as an example. So when an applicant does request, you know, another hearing for reconsideration of conditional approval or something like that, or recondition of an approval, to have an application for it, and then potentially a fee. So it's considered another application, so it's another application fee and then a butter fee. So it might be something we could look at. We're not gonna do it tonight, but, for the next fee update, or whenever we decide on that, maybe the next meeting or the November meeting, if that's light, we can talk about it then. Last thing I have is, obviously, we're in that time of year, so if we are gonna start doing any zoning amendments, we'll wanna get that list very narrow very soon and start getting some stuff on the agenda for November and December to start drafting things. So I'll go back through the lists and see if there was anything that seemed to stand out, from the board. Other than that, it's just our site plan and subdivision regulation updates, which are not warrant articles. Those are just public hearings, so we'd want to get those drafted and done, sooner than later too. That's all I have.
I'm all set.
CIP meetings will start in the beginning of November. That's all I got.
Make a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn. Anyone else?
Second?
Second.
Motion by Mr. Moore and a second by Ms. Anderson to adjourn. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
We're adjourned.
Ooh, a gavel.